right, welcome back, everybody. We're happy to have you here again. Thanks for tuning into the show. We've got our first guest on for this rendition of the show, this season of the show.
I'm pretty excited for this.
Today, yeah, it's going to be our old buddy, Brandon Stuart. He's a part of our guest spotlight. Brandon actually was on the original show. I think he was actually our first guest for that show, coincidentally. Also,
did we do a Jameson thing?
Yeah, and we made a phone call and we told some funny stories there. So
There we go.
So we might get into some of that again today whenever we get him on the line. So we just kind of wanted to open up this week to say thank you to everybody once again for all the likes, shares, listens, etc. Of course, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and SoundCloud. If you're listening to us now, you're probably listening to us in some form or fashion through one of those mediums. As far as feedbacks on recent episodes, our last episode in particular is actually starting to trend and has already got the second most plays, so we appreciate all the new people listening, sharing with your friends, so on and so forth, and we appreciate it. We are early into this iteration of the show, if you will, and we are still developing things out. So we appreciate your patience, and, we're not perfect here. We're open for suggestions. I think a part of the uniqueness of the show is the realism that we bring to it, and we're just two dads trying to have some fun here.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Dad bod supreme, baby.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to lay the foundation for what we're doing today. We are actually going to have our guest on, Brandon, as I mentioned earlier. We are going to get into what Brandon's doing currently in his life, kind of how our friendship started with Brandon, get into some of the unique things going on in Texas in particular, because Brandon is from Texas, and there's a lot of interesting legislation that's been passed in Texas recently, and to get more of a boots-on-the-ground perspective on which, quite interesting enough, as extremely conservative as Texas is, they, last fall, passed 666 new laws in Texas, some of which are highly controversial and infringe upon civil liberties. So that'll be a little bit of the discussion with Brandon. The primary focus with our discussion with Brandon is going to be discussing his new side hustle. He's gotten into diorama making as well as D&D custom figures and orders. So
the caricatures are off the charts, man.
He's painting.
He does really good work.
He's doing custom orders, that sort of stuff, and we'll get into the weeds with him on that. We'll also be discussing today, we've all had the pleasure of seeing the new Batman movie.
Oh, baby.
So we're going to do a review and discussion of that today as well.
So much to say.
And we've got a lot of breaking news, actually shortly before we started recording the show today. So we're going to discuss some recent news topics and elaborate on those as well. Next week, just to kind of let you know what's on the timetable, we'll set that in motion now. Next week is going to be our tribute episode to Kato. After that, we're actually going to have a WrestleMania preview. We're going to have a guest on the show, and we're going to discuss kind of the current state of wrestling. We're going to talk about wrestling back in the day.
That'll be cool for me, too, because I'm so out of the loop. So that'll kind of bring me back to what's going on, so I'm excited
But you're somewhat aware of what's going on in the sense that I talk about it, and your sons were into it for a period
so
of
I
time.
have a general idea, but it's definitely changed a lot since I've been into it.
But we're going to talk about some pro wrestling on that episode. And then we have some other guests. We've talked about some of the things that are in the works. I actually have a very good childhood friend, Brian Jones, Jesus Rose. You guys can check him out on Spotify, on Apple Music. He's agreed to do the show. He's out in California now, making a living with his music, doing very well for himself, very successful. I think he's going to be a really exciting guest. Brian actually got some notoriety on social media beyond just his music. He was actually doing some live streams amidst of some of the terrible things that were going on in our country during COVID, such as the George Floyd incident and the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, and the Ahmaud Arbery stuff as well. So he was doing some live stream discussions and really having some in-depth talks with people and really trying to advocate to people across ethnic aisles, if you will.
It'll also be interesting to speak to somebody that kind of come from the same area as us, and then now is in California and experiencing that lifestyle. So it'll be interesting to
absolutely
kind of see how that is being from this local area, and then going out to California. I'm sure that's a completely different lifestyle. So
yeah, so you always hear the talk, what's going on in other places. You kind of hear some of the hot discussion topics. Particularly depending on what media you subscribe to. And sometimes things get a little inflamed, but that's why we feel it's important to talk to people that actually live in these communities, such as you're going to see today. That ties back into our guest today, Brandon. And he's living in Texas, and he can kind of give us more of the perspective of the citizens.
Right.
And how they feel about these laws, how these laws are being implemented, what's the efficacy of these implementations of laws,
right?
How is it affecting everyday life, that sort of stuff. So I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and it certainly is not going to go without its controversy and interesting one-liners. Probably make no sense, but you'll get a good laugh out of it. So, going forward with the show today, outside of the things that we've mentioned, of course, the Batman review is where we left off last with chronologically what we're going to cover today. We're actually going to get into more specifically with some of the headlines that I alluded to. There's been some developments in TV, movies, games, politics, world affairs, that sort of stuff. So we've just taken a mixed bag. We're not going to spend too long on any one subject. We're just going to kind of throw out the headline, that's what's going on in development, have a little bit of a breakout discussion, kind of move on from there. So with that being said, without further ado, we're going to move on to our guest this week, Brandon Stuart.
I know nobody will be able to see this. I may get completely butt-ass naked.
Yeah.
And start slapping my ding-dong around. So
at some point, we definitely will have the ability to get butt-ass naked on camera, and we'll make that a Patreon exclusive. We'll put your dick
yeah,
and balls
I did a little design above the shaft of my penis where it's got like two Manchurian candidate little ombre.
Is this the Liev Schreiber Manchurian Candidate or the Dean Martin?
Oh, God.
Dean Martin.
It's got to keep it classy.
It's got a little martini off to the side, too, that I super glued to my dickhead.
and a little rape.
I currently have a catheter on right now. I'm just pissing straight into.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, convenience is key in these situations. So, if you didn't know him, this is Brandon Stuart. We've got him on the show today.
Brando.
Longtime friend, known each other forever. Brandon, I think I first met you when I was like 17 or 18.
Oh, dude.
Probably, right?
I think so. That's whenever I was scouting for boys.
Yeah.
To enlist into my army of misfits and miscreants.
Hell yeah.
And
the God Squad.
Yeah, I got him super early. It's so funny that you say that because we were just watching Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah.
On the last episode, I think, and he's bearing the cross.
Yeah,
no spoilers here, but Jesus did that too, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. That was wonderful. So we brought Brandon on today. Outside of just the fact that we've known him forever, Brandon's been my roommate off and on. Played music together, that sort of stuff. So we all kind of got together and met each other through the music scene.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of the creativity there. That's the creative itch that we got, right? And so we're kind of manifesting those in various ways now. We're doing the podcast, and we brought Brandon on to talk specifically about some of his diorama work, but Brandon's in a unique situation, the fact that he actually lives in Texas.
Oh, God.
Right? So a lot of interesting things going on there, politically in particular, right? How?
Oh, there are several different things. Apparently people are kind and warm here, just like the South. But as soon as you're a little bit different, let's snip your balls off. Oh, don't snip your balls off. You can't do that. You can't determine what you want to do with your own body or anything else like that. And who
that's
says
if you're a woman.
Trump's
That's if you're a
flag right
woman.
behind me.
Women
don't
don't get those choices. Men,
Yeah, you're a man. You can do whatever you want in Texas.
So I think you're good.
You know, honestly, the best way that I know to describe it, Texas is a lot like Baby Shark, the video.
Oh, God.
And had its day in the sun.
You know, the mommy shark gets like this little teeny tiny like little shark head, and then daddy shark gets this like grotesque, I need like a massive penis. Like, Jesus Christ, daddy shark, how fucking huge are you? And you better not be plowing into that lady. You're going to break her in half. You'll kill her.
Brandon's in rare form already. So
I haven't even been drinking. This is water.
Hey, I don't know if you knew this, but all those laws that they passed recently, they like went, I guess they went buck wild, and they passed 666 laws specifically. Did you realize that? They landed on that number, 666.
Isn't Texas like evangelical heaven?
I did not realize that, but it would explain a lot of the liberal cabal that's happening in our country right now. To be able to take that out. No,
anti-prophecy set forth.
I'm on the podcast today to be a character.
Yeah, there you go. We got a character on here.
Did not realize that there were that many that were actually passed. I do know recently they passed a law that was for trans children that you're supposed to dime their parents out if you see trans kids in your class.
Right.
And they're supposed to contact CPS or get the child therapy, have to go to therapy to make sure that they weren't brainwashed into believing that.
Oh, my goodness.
There has to be a special kind of human being that's like, you know
Let's ruin this family's life.
Instead, what I want to do is I want to dictate who they have sex with. That's exactly, I mean, that's such a strange, backwards, like, what enjoyment do parents get out of that? Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's just what's really kind of ironic. Texas is, of course, like kind of one of those states that tries to pretend as if they have almost like a libertarian agenda in the sense that, oh, you got all these freedoms here. We don't tax you. We don't do all this, but we're going to tell you what you do in the bedroom.
Right.
You know?
Oh, and it's more than that.
It's so funny that you say that, Barrett, because and Josh too. Sorry, Josh.
No, you're good.
I'm not disregarding you, man. I heard you in the background. So that's what I thought, right? We were all told no taxes, none of that. They gets you on so many other fucking things.
Like the shitty roads.
Property tax here is fucking astronomical. Yeah. Not only that, they have a shitty infrastructure that their taxes don't fucking go to. And they do pay taxes, man. I thought for sure. I believed that lie. I should have done my research a little bit thoroughly. But you start to realize what you were told, that you grew up with. You would hear things passing by that are just simply not fucking true.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if kids standing in front of the TV will hurt their eyes, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's fucking true, because I just took people's word for it.
I wonder where the tax money's going in Texas then. I mean, it ain't going to their energy grid, obviously, or anything
that's
like that.
That's another thing you could go on about specifically. You were totally caught up in those winter outages.
About that, but more specifically, I think what it's doing is it's going to the oil companies.
Right.
And it's going to people like Ted Cruz, who's currently at a fucking trucker rally.
Right. The Freedom Convoy.
With all those kids and
I thought he
all
was
those
in
guys
Cancun.
in Canada.
No, he went.
I thought he flew to Cancun when the Ukraine ship popped off. He was scared.
He says he's so anti-climate change. What he did was he flew to Cancun only to fly back enjoying the Freedom Convoy. He wanted to waste all of that fuel and everybody's time and all the taxpayer money.
Gotcha.
So, he's just a real lifer government official.
Right.
He fits the bill.
I don't know how you look at that guy as a young woman or a young man and go, that's the man I'm voting for, because he is handsome. He's got it all put together.
I thought you were going in a different direction like that. I thought you were going to say, I want him to put his penis in me, talking shit on his wife like Trump, and then he'll start following the podcast. Let's talk shit about him and demean him in his relationships.
Dude, we're part of the liberal cabal that's trying to kill JFK, going to bring back his son from the dead.
Because that makes all the sense in the world.
And he's default president, and he will default support Donald Trump.
Call back to first episode.
I'm going to be honest with you. The reason why this appeals to me so much in these stories, and I don't let it hurt my feelings so much, is because it reminds me it's almost like these guys are playing D&D. These guys are sitting around situations that people have gone through on a daily basis. And then they're contorting the story to make it more interesting.
Right.
Yeah. They're kind of fleshing out their fantasies, if you will, into real life, or at least trying to.
It's like a chess game. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
So, of course, the talk of D&D, we're going to talk a little bit about D&D here in a moment, but kind of some of the other stuff in Texas that I wanted to bring up was, of course, the pretty controversial abortion bill, the cardiac detection one.
I don't know much about this,
So that's essentially the moment at which that they can detect a fatal heartbeat, you cannot have an abortion, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like most people don't even know they're pregnant until 7 or 8 weeks in a lot of cases.
Right.
So yes, you can detect it pretty commonly as early as 5 weeks, but there's people that go even a month or beyond, a couple months into a pregnancy and have no idea that they are pregnant.
And granted, this is like a very rare case, but I've known of a female that was in the Air Force same time as me. She was a fucking terrible person, but she came back from her deployment. She came back from her deployment, and she had slept with somebody, and she went to what we usually have to go to is we have to go to a doctor after to essentially clear up anything that we might have gotten over there. And in most cases, we'd have to do a checkup just like anybody else.
Right.
And then she found out that she was pregnant, and she wasn't even showing, and she was 7-8 months in.
Holy moly!
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, and she's not a massive person either.
Wow.
So I'm like,
small baby.
Incredible. So that's another thing that you brought up that I wanted to mention too. So kind of chronologically with Brandon, he was in this area for a long time, joined the military, and has done really well for himself. He's now a paralegal in the military.
That's so awesome, dude. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, so very proud of him in that sense. So he's got a big boy life and a big boy responsibilities, and he's a dad too, like we all are now. So that takes up quite a bit of his time.
Dad squad assemble.
hell yeah.
So when he's not doing those things, he's gotten into the D&D stuff a little bit more so again. I know you were into it when you were younger, right? Like, what got you into D&D to begin with?
Well, let's talk about our kids first. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Yeah, so I measured my kids the other day. I'm going to walk you through all of the measurements in case you want to send clothes or
donations in the form of malt liquor.
I'll send you my PayPal.
Yeah. Bottles the size of their bodies.
Give me a handle.
So, yeah, whenever I was about... Shit, man. It was always around my life whenever I was a kid. And I remember being super into it then, but hearing all the outside noise about it, about how it was lame and stupid and demonic and all this other shit.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of the satanic panic set in, too, when we were younger. Because I had even no clue as to even what it was. None of my friends in my circle were even playing it. I never heard it until I heard all this like demon worship
stuff,
and satanic
the Bible Belt
stuff
talk
being perpetuated with it. So that was actually kind of my introduction to it.
Yeah, I think that we were all all the kids around me, at least, that I knew besides my best friend, Travis, and his brother. So they had 3 kids. It was Josh, Travis, and Andrew. Their dad played it, and then we would mimic his dad and play in our own little group. And I always looked up to his dad like, oh my God. So he's the dungeon master, basically the storyteller. A lot of people that play D&D, they're going to tell you, exactly, they're going to send you emails, and they're going to be like, no, he's not the storyteller, the player's just a storyteller. I'm breaking down things very fucking basic, all right?
Right, yeah.
He's essentially a storyteller, right? He kind of guides the story along or guides the players along into creating this story. So I'll go back to the last thing first because I'm getting ahead of myself. So I played it until I was 9, 10, until about 15. And then I kind of dropped off of it, started getting into bands, skateboards, anything that would get my little pee-pee to go up.
Right. I mean, naturally. I mean, that's what you do.
Anything that girls would look and go, man, he's a skater boy. So that Avril Lavigne song.
We're to infer that D&D makes your pee-pee go down, so now your pee-pee's back inside of your body?
Flaccid. Completely flaccid. Yeah, I beat it up against the wall to remember the good times, but it gives me no enjoyment.
Just to feel something.
It just to
feel something.
You know that? Have you ever had work done on your teeth and they got to squirt that medicine in there and make it all numb? That's what it feels like. Whenever you hit up against something, it's kind of like a phantom limb. Anyways, so I played then, and then I got into skateboarding, and it was bands like for Barrett, Josh. How many years?
Oh, that was the scene, man. That's what we did.
That was like a solid fucking 10 years of my life.
I was gonna say close
for sure.
To 10.
Yeah. A decade.
10, if not longer. It feels fucking forever. Yeah. And then I've been kind of trying to refine myself on a lot of different things, and I turned around to D&D. My wife's brother was super into it, and at his wedding, I was looking through some of the books, and I was like, man, I fucking miss this. And then it kind of ramped up from there.
Yeah. So I can kind of relate in the sense that that was kind of like literally almost the exact trajectory, age-wise, everything was pro wrestling for me. Like that was kind of my thing that I was into outside of sports. Right. But like, Attitude Era blew up, and me and my brother, we saw the first episode of Monday Night Raw, and that was it. That was game, set, match. We watched everything.
Man, back in the day, it was so good,
until I was like, 15 or 16 maybe. And then I got into music and started playing in bands, and then that's what took my time.
Right. A
little bit more so. But, that was kind of my fanatical thing outside of music.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, kids, whenever you get older, you get into different things. It's just one of those fun times. It's something that you really have to, like, after I joined the military, I didn't even know how to dress anymore. Like, I was I felt like I was in high school trying to figure out
fit back in and
like
find yourself though at the same time,
right?
And not in a sense that you're like trying to emulate other people, but
just trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because it breaks you down. Change. It definitely does.
So, kind of getting into the military too. I wanted to go back to this earlier too. That's definitely not the field at which I would have thought that you've gotten into, but. And I mentioned this kind of earlier as well. I think you've made the best of the situation outside of professionally, but personally for yourself as well.
Yep.
And not a lot of people go in and can do that. People go in with the hope that they can, clean up their act or clean up their life. And you're not to say that you had a terrible life before, but it set you on a path with I'll say a destination.
Right.
As much as I don't like to use that word, but you established yourself. It's not to say that it gave you purpose, but it's a career, it's a living, and again, it developed you out not only professionally but
you got to see the world too, didn't you? I mean, you've been more on your deployments. I mean, you've been to pretty interesting places.
Yeah, I've been I went to Italy from 2017 to 2020, and me and Liz got to see about 16 different countries.
That's so cool, man.
All over Europe.
Definitely puts things in perspective. What's that?
All over Europe, too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all over Europe.
What's some of the places you went, like Hungary, Croatia?
Germany? Didn't you go to Germany?
There's no telling if I'll ever go back to Africa. I went to Africa, too, I mean, you could definitely feel the privilege there. It was definitely, it puts things in perspective a little bit more than watching.
You drove into Africa? Or what was the means of travel?
We flew into Africa because we were going to Morocco. We've always wanted to go, so we decided to go.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
so you went to Morocco also. I mean, you went a lot of
you've been a lot of cool places, man.
You got to see Metal Festival.
It's different.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm slipping off my pants real quick.
All right, go for it. But you got to see a metal festival in a Norwegian country, right?
I had
bucket
pork
list, man.
scallopini, boys.
Little fiery down there right
downstairs. Now. Yeah, I got to go to Norway. We hiked, and just to throw this in there, we took flights that were over in Europe. Whenever you're in the military, you get flights through a certain airline, and they're extremely discounted. Like I think we flew to Norway for like $50 a piece.
Holy moly!
You can't beat that.
So the majority of our money was spent on their food, which is astronomical. I mean, for a 12-inch pizza, it was two 12-inch pizzas, 4 beers, and just 3 oysters. I paid $120-something US.
God, that's crazy.
And that was not at a fancy place. We're talking like it looks like a brewery type, setup.
Dang.
Yeah, it's definitely eye-opening. And I wouldn't take it back at all. But
right.
You start to realize whenever, God, it's like I always wanted to get away from home. And now all I want to do is go back.
Yeah.
So I'm like.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was having this thought the other day. Like, for the longest time, even like Pam and I have been together for a long time. And we would have to drive down to the Ironton area, visit our parents and stuff like that. And I would just like I told you this before. You've been on trips with me, Brandon. Josh, even you probably. Like going into Ironton literally induced a panic attack to me.
Right.
Just because I associated it with, childhood and so many bad memories and things of that ilk. But like,
I understand that.
Once I got more set in my life and Pam and I were together and we started having kids and things like that, it's like all of that washed away. Though.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of relates to what you're talking about now. Is like when you're kind of more at peace with yourself, regardless of where you lay your head, you can be comfortable as well.
Yeah, and I think mine was after my dad died. I think that I had gotten there and seeing Liz's reaction and how she came to me about wanting to move back to Missouri. And I was like, she saw me on a 4-wheeler and she was like, I've never seen this side of you. I was like, I'm just driving a fucking 4-wheeler. This is like normal. This
is what I do when I'm here. So she liked regal Brandon Stuart.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm woodsy. That's what I am. Yeah, you like that, baby? I don't have a leather jacket, but I got a.
But I got the assless chaps. You know what I'm saying? Got the assless chaps, yeah.
I had a lot of sex. Is that what they call it? Sex?
At least somebody did.
Sex.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything you guys want to know? Well, I mean, you're the showrunner, man.
Tell me what I've had friends that have been into like Dungeons and Dragons in particular, and that's not necessarily like the focus of where I want to take the talk per se, but there's a little bit, I feel like the Dungeons and Dragons thing is taken back off. Like I don't know if it's just because I was younger and it was popular and it was kind of booming, and I got older and just like lost touch with what. But I feel like kind of like when Stranger Things came out, for example,
it kind of
because they were playing D&D and Stranger Things. I feel like there was another like tabletop boom.
Right.
It definitely spiked. a couple new, I call them showrunners. I don't know their specific titles. Came into the mix. People who've been playing it their entire lives. You got Stranger Things out there. It definitely rose that. It's what's funny to me about this whole thing is that essentially it is a video game that nobody else made for you, that you design yourself and you play inside, and there are no fucking limitations.
Right. And it's unique to that story, too.
Right.
I can tell you right now, I do not remember most things from my childhood. I really don't. I don't have that kind of
memory.
That type of memory to where I can call upon shit like that.
Right.
But I'll be fucking damned if I don't remember my first character. Whenever I played, and I was a fucking gnome, and I wore a mask, and I rode up. One of the biggest moments ever is leaping off this magic carpet to destroy the last fucking bad guy, and I rolled a natural 20. I remember that shit like it was fucking yesterday.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, besides watching X-Files with my family, I can't remember specific things like that unless I call back. Those were times in my life where I was fucking nerdy as shit, man.
Oh, I hear you.
I was nerdy. And I loved the feeling that gave me to accomplish something and help my friends. That was...
Right.
It's a memory that'll never go away.
And you guys know about that made-up book? Fucking the Bible, man. It's just like that.
Yeah. Except you are writing... You're filling in the missing chapters that are there, because we all know that the King James Version is totally unadulterated, and that everything that's in there is all of the pages, all of the books. It's literally first-hand documentation straight from God himself through Jesus' orifices to do so. So,
hey, man, I do know for a fact that I literally just played a talking bush, and one of my sessions that I played with the guys, probably like 6 episodes ago, that was written in the book, and I'm like, that's how they came up with the burning bush. That's how they did it, man.
D&D, they
Bush
stole it
talks. How do you like that?
George Bush went back in time and told it to Moses. All right.
Yeah, it was a little baby George W.
Yeah, it was baby George Bush though. He went back in time. He told him. Then he time hopped, and he took JFK Jr. off the plane before he crashed, and then brought him down to Texas so that he could reinstill Donald Trump.
My parents had to explain that it was a literal bush, the actual bush, the talking bush,
and that he had scabies.
I don't know if that's accurate. I think if you look at the King James version, George W. Bush, they called him Babyface George W. Bush because he was a gangster too. He had a Tommy gun, and he tried to wipe out the big dragon in the sky. He was flying over.
The giant
I think you got all your
monster.
facts mixed up, Josh.
So, hey, that sounds like that could be a D&D episode, right?
That is exactly what it is, man.
But that's also hasn't that springboarded you into doing the actual dioramas yourself? I mean, like, I know dioramas are in and of their own thing, but I know, like, recently you got a 3D printer, and that's probably up the game as well. Like, just kind of talk me through the creative process. We started kind of back with D&D, and now you've went in and painting, like, figures, and I feel like that's moved on to making these dioramas now, and so on and so forth. Am I off there?
Yeah, no, you're right. The one thing I will tell you is definitely with the painting of monsters, I've always loved monsters. Anybody who doesn't like monsters is a fucking asshole. They're a great storytelling mechanic to begin with, and they terrify the shit out of us, which is what I try and do with most of my work. But I found, I'll say, a subsection of the internet that actually, makes their own terrain, does stuff like that. There's a very popular company called Dwarven Forge, which basically they cast all of their pieces and you put them all together, and you can make a set of something like a sewer system or whatnot. But I was really pushed away from that because it was like
it was kind of cookie cutter.
Some
Right.
pieces are like $350, man, and they're
holy.
small things. And I'm not saying it's a bad product, but what I set out to do with my stuff is I don't want to go off somebody else's idea of what something looks like.
Right.
I want to make exactly what I want, and a lot of times in my head, it's either I have an image for exactly what I want,
Right.
and I can recreate that, or I just get going with something and build it along the way and come up with new ideas.
Well, that adds a layer of your creativity and storytelling, though, with this as well. That, you know, it allows you to further scratch that itch, if you will.
Now, do you use software, I guess, like with the 3D printer? Is that how you make your caricatures and your scenes?
So I do have STL files that I use for my 3D printer whenever I print off the any of the figures that I do. And that's toxic ass resin that I pour into my machine, and I've mastered that. Now I can pretty much print anything off, and it's going to come out smooth. It's not going to have what they call scarring on it, where there's a bunch of bumps. But with the terrain, the thing I'm heavier into is terrain, and I build that out of an insulation board from Home Depot or Lowe's.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I know that there was a shop like in Greece. I don't know if that's the one that you already name dropped, but they were actually ordering stuff from you, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to name drop them at D&D 4 World. At D&D 4 World, it's got Beholder on the front of it. Yeah, in Greece, a guy had put out like this whole thing where he was coming up with his new campaign. Guy's got a few thousand followers, and I was like, well, shit, this would be really cool to... I'm not going to act like it was selfless, because I definitely was like, maybe I could throw my stuff out there.
Sure.
But
it's an opportunity.
Why not?
he
Right.
was, promoting it for people to send him some stuff so they can be featured on his Instagram page. And he's done shout outs for me several times. But yeah, it really is insane how invested Europe is, especially in Warhammer, which is separate from D&D.
I definitely know what Warhammer is.
So what's the
Yeah.
difference? I'm totally,
Well,
Yeah,
I
so-
know like the game, like the Total War Warhammer, like
Okay.
stuff like that. I love
like a
that stuff.
digital.
Yeah,
It's like on Steam, like on PC,
Okay.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So they have video games, and then it started out as tabletop, right? So
Yeah, that's how
the
it
difference
started.
between D&D and that
I got
is
you. D&D stayed on the
there's
table.
squads of people on Warhammer side where you attack each other, or you can do story based. D&D is you and several of your friends making a story together, and it's not about competition.
Right.
Not a single bit of it. Anybody comes into the game thinking it's about competition, instantly either gets kicked out of the group or causes problems later on down the line. Every Sunday,
See, I didn't know
whenever
that.
I
That's kind of
play, it's
another
my
interesting
church.
layer. That's another
I didn't
interesting
know that
layer with
either,
that
right.
is that it's not competitive based. So that
Right.
is interesting. It forces people to collaborate together.
Yeah, and I like to do different things in my sessions. Like I said, I build these 3D models, but I also like to do accents and voices while I'm playing. I like to send people things in the mail with the old wax seal stamps.
Oh yeah.
I then write it out in a very much not my handwriting cursive.
Yeah. Like an
or
old
put
English.
blood splatter on something. It puts you into that moment and makes you feel like you're that little kid again that saw Star Wars for the first time in theaters, and you walked in front of those automatic doors, and you put your hand up, and it just fucking...
Yeah,
Use
like,
the Force, baby.
yeah, like
Dude,
you use the Force to open the door.
It's a completely different thing for me, and I know for a fact that it will never not be a part of my life. For sure.
So are you getting much of a... I know it's not the be-all, the end-all, and you do it as recreation, but also for personal use in your games, but are you getting a lot of inquiries for people to make, like you to make people dioramas? Like, I know, like some of what you do is like online, probably like Skyping with other people or whatever the platform or, thing that you use to do so. Are like these people that you're playing with employing your services? Are you getting people outside of that? Like, is there a group that you belong to, like maybe on social media or something like that too, that you're able to kind of network and learn about your different opportunities, I guess, technically, even to like sell some of your stuff?
Yeah, I've thought about making an Etsy page. Right now I'm trying to build up my inventory to where I can at least give people examples of the type of work that they're going to get and the quality of it.
Yeah.
I should be opening my Etsy shop this year. I have found a couple different platforms to do it. It's this community, and I do mean it's a community. It's kind of crazy how big. A lot of it is spread from other people, and people do it like willingly, or like they try and help out in any way they can. There are people that will literally stop to message you to let you know if you have like a question. Hey man, how did you do that? Or how did you get that texture on there to like look like rock? They'll take the time to, there's not a single person that I've messaged that hasn't hit me back up.
Right.
And some of these guys got tens of thousands of followers.
That's cool.
So yeah, like it's how you get around in this community is definitely things like Instagram and bringing your stuff to local shops. That's a big thing. I mean, stickers, small stuff like that, really.
Yeah.
It's getting involved in the community, going in. If you don't mind, I'll tell you about a recent thing that
Absolutely.
So it's not D&D Day, but there's a specific day out of the year, and forgive me for not knowing this, people that know D&D, but at shops, they open up this day to DMs, and basically, and that's Dungeon Master, by the way. That's the one who sets up the whole situation, the whole story, right. Gets the bones of it.
Kind of the point.
They'll open it up and they'll be like, hey, do something from anything in this shop and we'll give you that book for free if you run it for several random people, right?
Yeah.
I did one. I've only done one recently, but this is only my first year since I started building. I built a whole set and did it in like a D&D style crossover between Aliens and The Thing.
Oh, cool.
So they were in the snowy tundra and they were trying to recover an artifact, and turns out that artifact was something more, and it changed certain people.
Yeah.
But
Lovecraftian.
5-6 different people I've never met my entire life, right?
Yeah.
I was nervous as fuck, and I've been playing D&D forever, but I've never played it for random people. And I remember one of the guys telling me that they really liked this. Even something as small as turning off the lights and speaking in like having an English accent to it is, or letting lights flicker on your diorama while the lights are off, puts people in that mode. And that's what movies do for me.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
That's exactly.
Yeah, and that's definitely another thing that we've all bonded over as well as movies.
Yeah, for sure.
And drawn inspiration from, like, I know, like, I've written songs with the intent to convey the mood that I got from a movie, or certain parts in a song, or lyrics inspired by a movie, things of that ilk. And it's funny to see how that's transferring over into this medium for you as well.
Yeah, man, that's a huge influence, if not one of the biggest. And metal, half the reason why I listen to metal now is also to see the amazing fucking artwork.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there is some gothic ass shit out there that
T-shirts, man, they're getting even crazier.
It's super inspiring. Inspiring.
Thank you, sir. Is there are there any particular like characters or repeat like diorama requests or anything that you have been producing? I know you said you're building up your inventory, but I know you've sold some stuff too. So what's probably happened to this has to have happened. Like, let's say, for example, you sold something in that shop. They had probably had other people come in wanting that same, item or whatever it is? Is there anything in particular that people are kind of clamoring for that you see already out the gate?
Well, very specific things that they're looking for. I haven't sold anything yet. I've had a couple of commission requests, which I plan to fulfill. But like I said, I'm kind of I kind of want to get my shop up and going. Some things have fallen through. One of the guys I was doing it for, something happened with his kids. And I was going to build him the scene with the Balrog and Gandalf on the bridge.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something it's going to happen, but no money yet, and that's okay with me, because this is mostly something for my mental health and something I need to be able to do on my own as well. But a lot of things that people are looking for, it can be very specific to their campaign. Right now, I know you guys don't have a video for this, but I have an alien diorama that I'm doing. I did a dune setup with lights in the background and an effect to make it look like spices within the caverns.
That's cool.
We are going to share some of your stuff too
on
the social media
Instagram,
feeds when we post up the pictures as well. So if there's a particular run of stuff that you want us to promote, if you want to say like, oh, I want these 5 for sure, whatever, you don't feel free to shoot that to me in a message. But we're definitely going to put it out there as well on the show feeds.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is I want to be able to work like a tattoo artist can. So I don't want it to be specifically this is all I'll do, or I want to be able to work with somebody, and if it just doesn't work out,
right, I hear you.
Yeah.
No, I like that approach, because if you're gonna, it's almost kind of like prostituting yourself out, quite frankly.
Right.
If you're not invested into what you're doing, the product's not going to come out.
Well, when you start treating it like a job, it's not a personal thing either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it adds. I want people to come to me for stylized versions of. They see my style. They know a roundabout version of what they're going to get, and I like a lot of nasty, icky, goopy. Right now I'm printing 2 skeletons to go on a crucifix, if that'll tell you anything.
There you go. That's cool.
But
Diablo
yeah,
style.
so really for me, I can do nice stuff too. I built my mom a hobbit hole that lights up, has candle flame in the middle of it with a road leading up.
So you made your mom the little custom hobbit set, right? The little what is it? I guess it's their home, right, in the hillside. Is that what you mean?
The hobbit hole, and I put. It's simple stuff that you find on a daily basis. Most of my stuff that I get for additional flair, especially for sci-fi stuff, is you go and get kids' toys from the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And you integrate those and alter them to whatever you want, and they turn them into a completely different thing.
Right.
So I had for pumpkins during Halloween time, they have a light up, or they have a light that flickers, and that served as the flickering light within the actual hobbit hole itself. And then, I use sticks from out in my backyard to make the small fence for
Awesome.
the hobbit to protect his garden. And the tree that I made, I got a model tree, but I added, kind of the cheap shit that you find in the bottom of old granny houses, where it's that viney looking shit, but it comes in plush bags of vegetation that's all fake.
It's like a moss kind of.
I use that to make it look like roots are coming out of the bottom of the tree, and cover it with dirt and make it,
sully it up a little bit, give it some real life texture to it and look.
It's experimental and different, and nobody's going to be able to make the same thing twice.
Right. It's unique. It's a piece of art.
Yeah.
What would you say so far, especially since you've gotten back into the D&D stuff and so on and so forth? What is one of the more entertaining experiences that you've had as a result of this? Is there a particular campaign, a particular story did something like ridiculously absurd happen that was just laugh out loud funny, especially to an outsider like me, or it could be more rewarding. It doesn't have to be necessarily hilarious.
Okay, so the funniest thing that's happened in recent-ish history, I get my wife to play with us, and she liked it. She's not as invested in it as I am, which is fine. She's got to find her own thing. But we're playing with this group, and this is right whenever I first started back up. And she hates whenever I tell the story, so I got to fucking tell it. Right?
That's how we do.
So they're in the witch's castle coming out. They're going up to this witch's shack to make a deal with this witch, right? And they're not seeing anybody. They go into the house because there's no answer, and they're looking around. Some chickens on the side, and it's like your standard fare for witches, right? There's jars with like fingernails and like icky slime that's moving around almost like it's animated, or could it be? And then there's a big barrel in the center that has a bunch of sticky black ichor in it. And for whatever reason, they turn all of their fucking focus on this barrel. Not where's the witch, not nothing. They're like, oh my God, it's got to be evil. There's a sticky ichor that looks like some of the orange chicken you get from fucking Panda Express. And they're like, well, don't touch it. And they're like, my wife was, her character, I forget even what she was playing at the time. But her character's like, hey, I got an idea. We can see if it's dangerous if we take one of these chickens. And she takes the chicken and dunks its head in. So she specifically talks about how she dunked its head in. I was like, okay. She's like, what happens? I go, the chicken is still in the ichor right now and is currently flailing about. She goes, I removed the chicken from the ichor. And she's like, what's happening now? I'm like, the chicken is like choking on the ichor because you've just shoved it into this big barrel. And she, without hesitation, she goes, I'm going to throw it at the wall to try and break its neck. And she fucking kills this innocent chicken.
It was like a mercy kill.
Who has done zero things wrong. Zero things.
Oh my God.
And that, with her throwing that chicken up against the wall, is what got the witch's attention to come down and ask why they were fucking with their shit. So that, to me, things like that, funny moments. I like to add comedy into my stuff, just like we add comedy into anything.
Right.
But I also like to put some grounded moments in there where it hits true to life and makes people think. Last thing I'll mention, if I have time, is my buddy was going through a divorce, and it had just happened. They both played D&D with me, right?
Yeah.
So she decided that she wasn't going to play anymore because they were going through this divorce. Understandable. I get it.
Right.
And I'm not going to say any names because that's not fair to him. But so that happens, and she was an integral part of the story. She was a very big role, and at that time we only had like 4 people playing. She had a model made for her. She sent it to me, and then it was all painted and everything. So she left. I had to find a way to melt that into the story to mean something to that individual, and whether I could try and give that individual some peace a little bit.
Yeah.
And make them kind of confront what they were going through, and also kind of reach inward. Now, don't get me wrong, I was nervous as fuck to do it, but I think things like that in D&D are the reason why I play, because it gets you thinking outside the box and gets you in tune with this character that you are not. You're
Right.
not this person. And you get to see the things that they're going through and translate them into your own life.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of like a portal into their essence, if you will.
It's a detachment from reality, you know what I mean?
I agree. It's
Well,
the
I
best.
definitely wasn't expecting from the chicken bashing to the soul searching.
A tone change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a hard right.
it's therapeutic, man.
That's cool.
I'm glad you
And
found
there's a
something.
whole lot of people that are super kind to each other. And anybody that's into D&D, I'm sure watches Critical Role. It's a huge show. They made it very popular for people who've never played or people that have thought about suicide and turn their lives around just by the actions of characters that they aren't even actually in real life.
Right.
And just go further on that suicide thing.
Yeah.
As Barrett and Josh know, my own father took his life. I just wanted to bring up a St. Louis project it's an awesome thing that they're doing. It's called Project Wake Up. It's about suicide awareness in St. Louis. They make these badass fucking T-shirts with St. Louis with the semicolon for the period.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, dude.
Check them out. They're fucking awesome. They do some great work, and they'll probably help somebody out there that's going through the same thing.
We'll have to post their socials, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very huge deal. So,
yeah, I didn't know that.
No, Barrett didn't expect that I was going to name drop those guys, but I think that it's super important, especially for everybody that listens.
Hell yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. 100%.
So we kind of covered most of my questions. Josh, did you have any other questions for Brandon?
So basically, you said you're going to start your Etsy shop. Is there anywhere else that anybody can, get a hold of you at other than just that? Like, I know we kind of went over that, but...
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a marketing major, so what I tried to do is add my dad's name into it, because that's a character that I play in D&D, that I played several times. It's called Edaw's Emperious Imporium. I can spell it out, or Barrett can put it on Instagram.
Yeah,
That'd probably be better that he does that, because this is a very long thing.
Yeah. We'll get it out there.
We'll definitely get it out there so people can follow your work as well as...
Let's get in touch with you if they need to.
Yeah, and, kind of I didn't even expect the community aspect of this that you kind of detailed today, so it'll give people the opportunity actually, if there's somebody that's perhaps like a little bit further down the line in their interests, but they're wanting to do some of the same things that you're doing, you can kind of be that catalyst, that mentor to them, to kind of help, give them recommendations too, the same recommendations that you're getting, so, and pay it forward. So I think it's a good opportunity.
Man, most definitely. If anybody wants any work done or ever needs advice or anything like that, I love my work. A lot of people say that it could be better. I'm satisfied for the most part with my work, and I think that people should always strive to be better, but you just need to do it, because it was on my radar for about a year that I could have been doing it, and I should have done it, and I just didn't do it because I didn't think I had the creative mind for it. So
right. Just had to get those wheels turning, those juices flowing again.
Yeah, all them semen bugs. That's what Mom used to call them, semen bugs. They're icky, gross.
You talk about those little pills you get in the bottoms of your tooth socks because you're just wanking off into them all the time. She'd do your laundry.
Yeah, man. No, hey, I heard that it's a cure for COVID, too. I went on Alex Jones' website.
Stiff socks.
And it said, smear yourself in certified semen.
By Alex Jones' stiff socks.
That's you got to buy the stiff socks.
Oh, you got to buy the stiff sock and put it on your wiener. Make sure your dick's nice and hard. If you can't get hard, at least you got the sock that's hard. So, yeah, man, you really just got to think about what the type of information that you're pulling in. Don't get that fucking vaccine, man.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Nope.
So we also mentioned in the midst of this as well that kind of movies as some of the inspiration. So we actually want Brandon to come back on the other side of break with us, and we wanted to talk about the Batman. So you want to stick around for that, Brandon?
Hell yeah, man. I'm always down to talk about Batman.
All right. Stick around. We'll be back on the other side. quick hits and headlines. There's like a lot of sports developments that happened even like right before we started recording on the show. So like the MLB, the Players Association and the MLB got back together.
There's a chance, Barrett. Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright. They can break that record, baby. There's a chance.
Absolutely.
I think I saw that they had met and come to terms.
That's right.
It's a tentative agreement, but I think both sides still have to sign, if I read correctly.
Yes. But I don't think that they'd be as far committed into it. Like, I don't... It's a done deal in the sense that, yes, they haven't put the pen to paper.
Right.
At least before we started recording.
Right.
But, like, even the Cardinals posted up a
baseball's
highlight reel.
back.
Yeah, they already put up opening day.
Right.
So, opening day for the Cardinals is the 8th.
I don't think the MLB as an organization really understands what kind of damage of not having a baseball season in St. Louis would do to the local economy in St. Louis. That would be detrimental.
Yeah, that would
St.
kill
Louis.
it.
The bars, the restaurants, not having the Cardinals game and bringing in the crowds. I mean, that would just be... awful. So I'm glad that they got something figured out. I mean,
the Cardinals even bring in people intercontinentally as far as travel.
Right, they're one of the most renowned baseball teams in the world, man. So
when you got George Soros sitting up there on his high rocket trying to delve out baseball news, I got you guys. Yeah,
ward off those evil spirits of George Soros. So kind of other stuff, kind of sports-wise, that happened too. We've got a lot of people getting traded today, specifically, or in the last day or so.
Are you talking football-wise?
Yeah, football-wise.
Yeah, football is crazy right now.
So Russell Wilson got traded to the Broncos, which the Broncos, Brandon, you followed pretty religiously there, especially while you lived in Denver. So that's quite of an interesting deal.
Yeah, that's especially since they beat the Broncos.
He is the first quarterback to get traded to the team that he beat in the Super Bowl ever.
That's pretty.
It's hard to believe that's never happened, but yeah.
That's hard to believe that statistic. That's crazy.
So that's pretty crazy. And then Carson Wentz got traded today.
Washington, right?
Yeah, from the Colts to the Commanders now. It's no longer the Washington football team.
I almost said it. Yeah, I almost said it. I almost went old school, but yeah.
Hey, here's my only thing, man. Like, who's the dipshit that's coming up with some of these names? Like, the Washington Commanders?
They were stupid enough to, like, announce, like, what the final names were in the running, but then they posted, like, a list of, like, 10. Like, the Generals was an option, and they had some other ones, like Air Force Tat. I don't know. They were just, like, some egregiously silly names.
Right.
And a lot of people were
the
like...
Washington Werthers.
And to remain the Washington football team, I believe, was an option still yet.
Right.
Even like as if they were even entertaining that. It's like, why would you go through that much just to remain with the same name? Like at that point, it would just be a publicity stunt, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a stupid fucking name. There's no question about it. Aaron Rodgers is going to be back with the Packers next year.
Yeah, they locked that deal up.
So that is absolutely.
I wonder what Tampa Bay is going to do now. That's the question.
Yeah. So there is some people that are going to be on the free agent market that, like there's a lot of people that are going to be cut also.
Right.
For cap reasons and all that stuff. So, like, there's tons of movement still yet going to happen.
Right, it's early, right?
The other big thing in the NFL is Jerry Jones. So back to Texas.
Oh, God.
You guys see what's happening with him?
Man. I just saw that.
Illegitimate daughter that's 25 years old.
She's taking him to court over it, I guess?
Yeah. He made her mom sign an NDA supposedly in 1996.
Oh, man.
So he is being sued by her currently.
So I heard something else on Breitbart. Jerry Jones is undead, and the law protects the undead because it's only supposed to be for the living.
There you go.
The fucking Skeletor over there.
Motherfucker's going to get out of this again.
Oily. And it's, sorry, Dallas, but you suck. You suck. You're so boring. I've been twice, and every time it's like fucking ghost town, man. I walk in there, and I'm like looking around. There's nobody on the road. Everywhere but Dallas. Like Fort Worth is where it's happening. Fuck you, Dallas.
Yeah. As an Eagles fan, I love to hear you say that. That makes me happy.
Keep all the dollars.
Dallas is boring. Boring as shit. They don't have a D&D shop. Fort Worth does. Boom.
There you go. So, also, obviously, the whole Russian and Ukraine thing's developing out further. So, like, the new wonderful thing in the last 24 hours is supposedly that now Russia's trying to frame their invasion and validate it with bio weapons being developed with U.S. money in the Ukraine,
and they don't want
these are war crimes, and they're trying to get all this backing now in support, and the little slut that Tucker Carlson is for Putin's asshole, literally last night on his broadcast perpetuated Russian propaganda of a general making these claims and aired it, and then also went on to, I guess, try to prove it by a hearing that they had in Congress where this representative for the Ukraine delegation allegedly was like...
the lady in the green dress. I've seen that video all over
She was
Twitter.
explicitly asked, like, is there, bioweapons being developed or whatever the case is? And she says that there's a biological research facility in the Ukraine that does get U.S. aid, but what its purpose is to investigate things like SARS and try to understand in anthrax and so on and so forth how to deal with these things and how to
or even
come
how to
up with vaccines and
or how to defend
them.
against them. Right?
Exactly
yeah.
right.
That's
So,
what the whole point of research facilities are.
But it was reported in a sense, and this is always how you frame it. So essentially what Tucker Carlson was going on for 17 minutes about specifically on this, he was like cyclically having an argument about semantics.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so, obviously people with any decent level of intelligence would be able to see that and understand that. But unfortunately,
he's got prep school written all over him, man. And there's nothing that a Russian president doesn't like more than bending over a prep school.
It's
highbrow.
Yeah, it's amazing
curly
to me
hair,
like how
bow tied,
pro-Russian people in our government have become in the news media as well.
Put some borscht on it.
And also, the UK put sanctions on a Russian oligarch who actually owns the Chelsea football club in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Today also.
I saw that
or
too.
here in the last 24 hours or so.
I think one of them lost their yacht in the Netherlands.
Yes.
That was seized.
And then, of course, all the unfortunate things that are happening, of course, with the actual humanitarian corridors that are being developed and supposed to have ceasefires.
And they're being
shelled and
rocket attacks and everything else.
So we went into the weeds about the Ukraine yesterday, or last episode, excuse me, and why really what's going on there is going on there. So don't listen to Tucker Carlson if you can, help yourself.
Educate yourself about
and know that Russia is controlling the media and everything that's coming out of Russia.
The Putin regime has controlled the media in Russia for the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I say listen to Tucker Carlson and get a good idea. I've told Barrett and I believe Josh several times, whenever I went back to Missouri for training to be an investigator, I went back and for 3 months straight, I listened to Rush Limbaugh. Sure, listen to him, but that's just to know exactly what the people of the wrong thought are thinking on that side of things.
It's part of being educated.
The perpetual hate that they spill out.
You can't have a rounded opinion
without knowing everything.
Exactly right. Unless you are taking the time to know what the other side of the argument is.
Yep.
And even if you hear something that sounds like it could be credible to you, like I can't encourage people enough. I understand anything and everything can be put out there nowadays, but just like go to Google and just Google it.
Or even Wikipedia or something. Yeah.
Read, 5 to 7 different sources. And I'm not saying read them all in great detail. Like maybe read the first 3 in great detail and then skim, the ancillary choices that you made. Like, just try to see what the conversation's about, what the citations are, where the facts are at.
Eat the rich.
Absolutely.
So we actually wanted to talk about some other lighter topics, though. So like movies, TVs, and games. So we're going to rifle that Batman talk in here. We've all seen it. This is going to be spoiler-filled.
So if you guys don't want spoilers, make sure you pause here.
Yeah. And so I'd say we're going to talk a good 5 to 10 minutes about that. So you can skip ahead if you don't want to hear anything about it. But first and foremost, what's your immediate reaction, Brandon, to the film?
Well, first of all, I want to tell everybody in the audience, make sure what you do is you pause it, if you haven't already, break your phone, because the government's listening. Go get a new phone, turn that on, activate it. By that time, the episode's over, you don't have to worry about it.
Sound like a real asshole from Texas, I tell you what.
Yeah. So I've had. I have had some time to think about it because I watched it on this past Sunday.
Same.
I liked the movie a lot, and I would be differing a little bit. I think that he's a fantastic Batman. I think that this is exactly what he'd be going through. It'd be a mental health thing. I know people take it as whiny, but your parents were killed. It's been 2 years. You don't know anything different.
Well,
you
and this is a
pretty
young Batman too, right? I mean,
he's supposed to be 30, and I think isn't the time gap 20 years?
Yeah.
So he happens when he's 10.
And I think there's like a mental health conversation in there. So I'm not upset with that. Bad guys were awesome. I heard somebody said Penguin was was laughable and stupid. I was like, I don't know what the fuck kind of thing you're talking about, because I thought that the villains were perfect.
That's what made the movie, right?
Yeah, and the only thing that I could really say for me personally is that it's a little bit too drawn out. There were some things that they could have cut out of there that weren't necessary, and I understand that he was trying to go for a mood.
Right.
But I wasn't disappointed, and to be honest with you, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, or maybe I'll get the other thing. I think it was as good as Batman Begins. Batman Begins, for me, great movie, but I think that you see Nolan's work shine in the second film.
Absolutely.
And it kind of goes back to that in the third film of the first, which is perfectly fine. I've learned, unless something is complete dog shit, don't completely knock on it all together. I think that it definitely had some horror elements that I loved.
Right.
Fucking loved. The very beginning of that movie, I looked over at Liz after he was talking about how people think that he's always in the shadows. That's the fucking Crow.
Yeah.
That's the shit, man. Like, I fucking love that shit.
Yeah. So kind of like some vibes I was getting off of it as a movie overall, like where it borrowed but didn't outright steal from, like, like Seven, Chinatown, kind of some of the beatish cop investigative type aspects of it.
For sure.
As well as Zodiac.
Yeah.
So Zodiac, we made that comparison the other day off air when we talked. It certainly had a Zodiac feel to it. The lighting treatments, how procedurally people moved on the screen. It felt very real, very accurate on how a crime scene would look, how any other gritty crime movie would be. So this movie, I think where it shined is the detective aspect and elements of Batman that hasn't really been explored.
The expert detective type.
I've heard people say like the Nolan Batman movies don't age well because it was like in a military approach, like a military assault, which I'm like, I mean, I don't understand how that's a criticism, because that's how he humanized Batman.
Right. That's
how Batman became a reality, in the sense that, like, the fantastical things of the Schumacher Batmans and those sorts of things. They're absurd.
Are these the type of things that they're bitching about? And probably those motherfuckers love Iron Man. So Iron Man was a weapons dealer.
Right.
He was literally like all these terrible companies in our country that make all these bombs.
Right. Absolutely. So, and then the thing that I'm having a problem with, Josh and I were talking about before we started recording today, like, there's a conversation going on right now too. There's always, everybody's always going to, like, this is an easy analogy to make just right out the gate. If you grew up on Ozzie Smith or Martin McGuire or Albert Pujols, those will always be the best Cardinals ever to you.
Right.
You can't relate and say Stan the Man, while, statistically and factually, as far as I'm concerned, but neither here nor there, is probably considered the greatest Cardinal, right? It's almost like you've had to have lived through and experienced those things as well, and people have such short-term memories now. But, in many respects, the Burton films did set the bar for comic book movies and Batman movies in particular, and they're great, and I love them. But
they're their own thing.
They are their own thing.
I think people try to compare too much instead of letting stuff just be what it is.
And
you know what I mean?
That is definitely the short of the point.
Fucking A, Josh. You couldn't say it better, man. Hey, find a fucking hobby. Hey, find a hobby besides being a troll and talking about writing this stupid-ass article I saw the other day on Yahoo that was from some low-level beatnik piece of shit that was like, hey, so here's a conversation to have. Is Matt Reeves basically saying that it's okay for people to commit crimes on Asian people? Because the first guy that was there, is he trying to perpetuate a national discussion about the violence against Asians? Let me tell you something.
I'm pretty sure I saw people of all ethnic backgrounds being beat.
Right, throughout the entire film.
What you've created is divisiveness.
Right.
What you're trying to do is pit people against each other, and you are bringing up shit like that.
Right.
Nobody else is bringing up shit like that.
Right.
You can't just see this man for being a man that was being attacked by muggers. You have to turn into something else. Leave the fucking shit alone, man.
Yep.
Back off.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Batman's hands are rated E, and that's for everybody.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. And he beats the shit out of everybody.
In fact,
even little Batman.
He beat more white people in that movie, if you're going to take account, probably.
Oh, no. And I'm talking about the scene where the gang was...
Right. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the Asian guy.
Scene.
And I'm like, yeah, he's Asian, but I don't... And even if he was trying to make a national discussion, like, calm the fuck down, man. I understand you're trying to make clickbait. Sure. Nobody gives a fuck about you, and your parents probably hated you too. I get it.
Without question. I think that the Nolan Dark Knight movie, I think the only criticism it got when it came out was the fact that it was kind of a rip-off of Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, as far as structurally and how it moves, editing-wise.
Yeah.
But it is its own movie, don't get me wrong. And there's a bit of a heist element to it as well. But...
Well, Heath played a big role in making that movie. But Heath
Ledger's performance, right. And there was a lot of other great performances as well. Right. Michael Caine, the depth that his character added as Alfred. I think he's he's always like overlooked when you talk about the Nolan movies.
Right.
And then the guy who played Two-Face, Aaron Eckhart, he was fantastic. Yep. Even though...
I like his apples, man.
Yeah, his Adam's apple definitely kind of added to that.
I like his apples. Eckhart's is...
Yeah, Eckhart's is the best apples. And the best pumpkins. Mm-hmm. And so... but yeah, so this is its own thing. They're doing something different. I have no problem with it. I have a few problems, but they're nitpicky. I think I don't really know what I was expecting when I went into it. It definitely delivered differently on my expectations, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely did with mine too. I mean, I was away from my family. My wife had my baby. I was, COVID rampant, and all I had was my Batman trailer. And I watched that thing probably 600,000 times, just like I did with Dark Knight with me and Barrett.
Yeah.
We watched that fucking thing all the fucking time. I'll be drunk watching that shit on repeat.
Yeah.
So
it's like me with the old
So I set myself up for failure. The only other thing I'd say, man, we didn't have to bring up the Joker, but after listening to what Barrett and Josh said about that Matt Reeves interview, about how he's just trying to show that this isn't Batman's movie.
Right.
This is the Rogues Gallery's movie.
Right.
We get to see how all of these other crazy people were inspired by Batman to be their fucking wildest people. He's not even the Joker yet.
Right. It's
preemptive, right?
Their character building and their Rogues Gallery building, like you said, but it's more of an origin story for the villains in particular, in many respects. Which I'm fine with, because the movies have never been approached that way, though.
And it's setting that tone, too. You know, how they'll interact with each other. You know what I mean? And how, why they are the way that they are with each other. I think that'll be an interesting thing to see going forward.
I did like the different approach to the Riddler. There's only been, maybe one or two other similar... he's a criminal, nonetheless. He's been presented very comedically at times. He really ought to be a character that is of superior intelligence. Like, he is supposed to be Batman's match, wit-wise, largely. As far as that's his trading, his calling card is trademark of the Batman villains in that respect. And I do feel like that they were true to that with this Riddler. You know,
oh fuck yeah! One of the only serial killers, prolific serial killers out there that was never caught.
Right.
I mean, until recently, they think that it was this particular individual. I mean, he ran circles in the press,
right,
around cops, around. I mean,
the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, the Zodiac killer, man.
And
so
that's
I
the
think
big
that
inspiration
just
for the
fit
character.
perfectly. It's like a puzzle piece that you've been
Yeah.
missing the whole time, and finally click that bitch in.
Yeah.
What I felt like the marketing was really good, but overlooked. But again, it's like things are just starting to come back from COVID, entertainment wise. But like, you know, the movie posters that they even had out, where it was like the Riddler, it was kind of reminiscent of the old Joker posters as well. But the Riddler was standing there and with his silhouette in the background, and it looked like a horror movie. That
right. Then that's one thing that I will compliment the movie is it felt like a really really good like true-esque or true crime-esque, you know, right. Like Hunt for a Serial Killer, like thriller type movie, along with being like a comic book superhero film. So I really loved that. I thought that was great.
Right. Yeah, I thought that aspect was pretty fucking sweet.
It was a crime movie. It was a detective story set in a comic book world.
It was awesome, yeah.
And I was fine with that.
I think I'd like it more, too. I know that I love movie theaters, right? I love movie theaters. I love going to the movie theater. Here's my problem. You want people to keep on going to the movie theater. Our movie was at 12:10. Our movie did not start until 12:50.
Oh, yeah.
There were 40 minutes of fucking credits that we had to sit through. And I can do that at fucking home.
Right.
Actually, I don't even have to wade through that fucking bullshit.
Right.
Instead, you've ruined the mood already.
Yeah, I will agree. We saw one at the local theater, and the credits were, I mean, insane.
There was it's already a 3-hour movie, and there was at least 30 minutes of credits that I watched. And so, like, especially if you're going to take your son, a small child, to the theater, there's no way you're sitting through a 3-hour movie.
Right.
Like, no. I can barely sit through a 3-hour movie.
Right. I can't even.
That is my number one complaint with the movie is I felt like there was a lot of stuff that was like cinematography, and it was like more just like unnecessary shots and awkward stares and like zoom outs and stuff. I felt like a lot of that could have necessarily not been in the film to maybe make it not so drawn out.
Yeah, there were some things.
And I know he was trying
to
do it for the mood.
Right.
Absolutely.
I know he was trying to do it for the mood.
He was trying to world build.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. And I totally get it, man, but I would have been down for a 1-part, 2-part thing that comes out later in the...
Sure.
I've seen it. What movie was that where the first part came... Was it Star Wars? I can't remember. First part comes out at the very beginning of the year, and then the end part comes out at the very end of the year.
So there was
Anyways, TV shows have been doing it for a while.
Yeah, there was a couple movies that did that, but more famously, more recently, that was the Infinity Saga. So it was Infinity War and Endgame.
Fucking do that, man. I'll do that. I would have watched that shit in episodes.
Yeah.
Well, he originally had a 4-hour cut of the movie, so it would be essentially the same thing because, like, you know, that'd be 2-hour approaches with it. And
man, I would have loved that.
You know, I think that people, it's hard. It's really hard to ask people to watch it. I watched it, and I had no problem watching it, with the exception of the bathroom and the 30 minutes of trailer. But it's hard to ask people nowadays to watch a movie, especially at the theater, for 3 hours long. That's just a big ask.
Yeah.
You know?
It's difficult sometimes. I mean, I would do it if it was at the Alamo Drafthouse. Unfortunately, I can't leave my seat whenever Batman's on. I'm not going to the bathroom. I refuse. Because there's something that could have slipped in there, like tricky dicked in there.
I knew that Arlo wasn't going to make it through the movie. I took Arlo with me. And so I looked up beforehand, like, where do you go to the bathroom at? And fortunately, they put out like 5 minutes of that funeral scene. So as soon as that started, where I had seen it, where it picked up off,
you're like,
I knew that I could.
You're like, come on, buddy, let's go potty.
So I made him go. And we went, and we made it back into our seat.
Man, they're gonna slip.
We made it back into our seat, and we still saw about 20 seconds of that funeral scene we had already seen. So
that's cool.
It worked out perfectly, beautifully.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, man, they're gonna tricky dick something in there, man. Somebody's gonna get a bone, or There's going to be a soccer ball that's kicked across that I have to look at.
There was a couple things in that scene, though, I actually didn't notice until I seen it on the big screen. I don't know if it was because I watched it mostly on my phone when that clip come out, but there was like, you know, like the silhouette of the person standing at the top of the stairway in the cathedral. Like I didn't notice that until we were at the movie theater.
Yeah, which was the Riddler.
Right.
Standing there. Right. So
yeah, I like the movie a lot. I'm looking forward to the next one. That is my review. I'm very excited about where he's going with it. I think that it's got a shit ton of promise. Matt Reeves is a fucking genius.
I'm with you, though.
And Robert Pattinson is a literal Jock, the artist's translation of Batman.
Right.
He is a realized, actual skinny-bodied Batman, and it makes sense.
Yeah, he's kind of a jock. A Sean Murphy also has done a good, skinnier Batman, but like comic book artist-wise, they've taken a lot. Like the Bat and the Cat storyline recently, there's literal scenes pulled from the comics that are in that.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of the inspiration was like Batman Ego,
Arkham
Asylum, Long Halloween, Batman Year One.
And I just got the new one, Batman Imposter, that I'm going to read. I haven't read that whatsoever. It's on Batman Black Label or DC Black Label.
Yeah,
I'm actually really fucking excited. The artwork is
top notch.
Yeah,
did they make it for the movie? What? I mean, it's great.
Yeah, well, remember whenever the Nolan Dark Knight came out and they put out that Joker novel? It was Brian Azzarello. And I don't remember if it was the same artist that did 100 Bullets. No, it was Lee. I forget his last name, like Barrajamo or something like that. But
Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. he rose from his prison cell and drew this beautiful piece of art. So anywho, but that Joker was a lot like the movie Joker presentation, and you'd never seen the Joker depicted like that. You know, obviously more menacing with the facial scars in that way, and so on and so forth. But Snyder, not Zack Snyder, but Scott Snyder, the comic book writer, now with the Joker has done like where his face is cut off, and he puts on other skin masks and stuff. Yeah. And there was a lot of people speculating that that's where Matt Reeves was going to go with his Joker, but actually watching that interview that they talked about, he's approaching it from the sense that he has like a literal congenital disease where his face
is contorted and
stuck in a smiling position constantly, and he's had to live his life like that, and it's actual physical deformity that's caused him to be the way he is and added to the psychosis.
Right, he's causing so much pain that makes it the selling point of his fear,
and he lacks empathy and things of that ilk on account of it. So I think that's an entirely new approach as well.
And it's fucking terrifying.
And they've got
it's fucking terrifying.
That shot of him through the cell, the cell door or whatever. That I loved that whole shot.
The problem I had with it when we immediately watched it, and I think we talked about it a little bit as well, is the fact that like you couldn't tell what was going on. A lot of people were confused. People thought that was Two-Face at first, but whenever there was a joke made with reference to a clown and this and that, then it became a little bit more evident. And then Barry Keoghan, who was hired for the film initially, they trolled everybody and said he was a detective. Well, you went the whole movie and didn't see him as a detective in the movie. You're like, where the fuck is this guy? And then I heard that voice, and I'm like, I know that voice, and I know I just seen it.
Started clicking.
Something, and he was in the Eternals.
That kid's fucking awesome.
And he's a great actor. He was in the Eternals. He was in Green Knight. He was fantastic in Green Knight.
I have not watched
my favorite thing. My favorite thing that he's ever done is Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
That fucking movie.
He's psychotic.
Talk about a psychotic little fuck.
Yeah.
That kid.
He's going to be able to. Well, he was not the exact same character, but he was a psychotic little fucking Green Knight too. Like he was running out on the battlefields and like scavenging on those bodies, and then he like tricked the knight in the field. Like the motherfucker was fucked up.
That's still a great movie that I'm always going to remember for the rest of my life.
So I think he will be a good Joker. We haven't seen it being fleshed out yet in its full, garb. And this is an introduction of the character at the moment. I saw that they were like rumoring that Anna Taylor-Joy or Anna Joy Taylor, whatever her name is being rumored for Harley Quinn for the movie.
Interesting.
going forward. So that'd be kind of interesting. And then, like, I think that I know Matt Reeves he's expressed interest in bringing in his version of Mr. Freeze, which I'd be curious to see what his approach is with that, because every approach with all of his, with the villains has seemed marginally different, but I've enjoyed. So, like, Riddler, what he's talking about doing with the Joker, it'd be cool to see what he does with Mr. Freeze. But they really want to do the Court of Owls, which I'm really excited about if they do.
That'll be something cool to see.
And that goes back to Scott
Please.
Snyder, the writer, as well.
Matt Reeves, I know you listen to this podcast. Listen up. Listen up, man.
Take our advice.
Hey, we all know that you like to listen to Midwest podcast radio. So hear me out. Court Owls.
Gotta happen.
I'll give you a handy. I'll give you one handy. One handy. All right? Let's do it, man. Make it happen.
So Batman, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate it at, Brandon? I always hate when people ask me this question, but
Yeah, I did too, but it's fine because we're in the company of friends. I'll say 7. I'll say a 7. I love his approach. I love what he's going, where he's going with it. Do your thing, man. I leave it in your hands. And if this version isn't my favorite version, no big deal. I still think he's trying, and I think he's got a good fucking vision for it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brandon. I'm gonna go a 7, and I think I'm gonna go with what you said, and I think the next film is gonna make or break Matt Reeves' Batman.
Yeah, I think I could go as confidently as an 8 out of 10 for me. I think I probably talked about it more beforehand, but I've had a little bit more time to think about it. Yeah, I was just kind of nitpicking at it, quite frankly. One thing we didn't mention about the movie that has to be mentioned is the Batmobile, though.
Oh, yes.
The Batmobile is exceptional.
You mean one of the best parts about the entire movie?
Yes.
Yes, the Batmobile is literally terrifying, and it is what the Batmobile always needed to be, honestly.
The most broken down Batmobile on the planet, and whenever that moment... I'm sure people will talk shit about it, but that moment the Penguin looks over and that engine is roaring
and the lights are off,
buddy, I'm fucking scared for you.
Yeah,
you're
that
fucked.
scene was so intense,
like right
man.
over his shoulder, and it looked like a monster in the dark launching out.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was incredible.
Oh,
I was talking to another buddy, and he likened it to Mad Max, and I didn't even make that correlation. That mobile. And I was like, you know what? That is totally a Mad Max car. Like, that's pretty badass, actually.
Perfect.
So, and then Catwoman, of course.
She did great.
She is
and the whole spin that they had with her story and stuff.
Mighty fine.
Yeah.
Mighty fine.
You are the best Catwoman. Not only because you're very attractive, ma'am, and I really appreciate you, and your beauty is translated through your acting. But I will say, costume... mannerisms.
Yeah, costume was
awesome.
All fucking spot.
She's exactly attitudely backstory. I mean, I'm not saying it's 100% faithful to the comics. Her backstory, it's fine. She mood wise, character wise, the moves that she did, like in physical altercations, was believable. It's something that somebody her size would do. A lot of kicks, a lot of joint manipulation, like. Whenever you're much smaller than the opponents or the people that you're facing, like everything she did was believable.
Right. I agree.
Perfect. She was another perfect part of the movie. Villains, perfect.
Yep.
I don't care what you say about Penguin, man.
Was phenomenal.
Yourself. That man is Colin Farrell. He's great, one of the greatest actors of all time, and he's sexy.
Fantastic.
Jeffrey Wright, too. Jeffrey
Wright, fantastic.
Mentioned him as Gordon.
Yep.
It was wonderful.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
And the thing I think I'm most excited to see with the next. Well, not the most, but certainly part of it, is more Andy Serkis as Alfred, because I feel like he didn't get much time as him in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he did an excellent job as well.
So, but the Batman did $250 million worldwide on opening weekend.
That's like one of the best. That's like one of the best box offices since the pandemic, right?
It's the second best, only to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So... yeah, that's pretty incredible and great numbers. Other things DC related, I saw today that Flash and Aquaman got moved back to next year, so I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I was really looking forward to that. Flash in particular.
So did Black Adam.
Black Adam.
Yeah, they all did.
Black Adam got moved from this summer to October, though, of this year, I think.
Yeah.
And then, but Shazam, the second Shazam, got moved up to December, so that'll come out right before Christmas now.
That'd be nice.
It was supposed to come out next year.
Yeah.
And then, I don't give a shit about this, but it was a trailer before I watched the Batman. It's Super Pets, and Arlo wants to see that. That got moved back, too.
I'll watch it.
The one thing that does look kind of funny is Keanu Reeves is doing Batman's voice.
Yeah,
and
they actually have a clip
I
of
think
that.
it is pretty funny.
Yeah. And then Kevin Hart's his dog.
Yeah.
It's just such an odd pairing.
I'll take all of it, man. Hey, my little one, not that anybody on here cares besides Barrett and Josh, but my little one started doing this thing. He's got a Batman talent and goes, Batman.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, yeah, you do that Christopher Nolan Batman, man.
That's
you do
great. Rachel. Other DC-related news, Gotham Knights was one of the games that I mentioned that I was looking forward to this year, but they didn't have a date announced for it, and they finally announced the date. It's October 25th it's going to be released. And it's kind of similar to the Arkham games as far as the world and the character builds, but I didn't realize you can play cooperative play on that.
That's cool.
So you
Team
can
up.
actually play with other people and team up, so that's actually pretty cool.
PlayStation, man, hit me up.
Yeah, for sure. You got a
On
PlayStation
the
5
5
now,
game.
right?
I can, cross-platform, man.
And
I guarantee we can play together.
You played, you're playing Elden Ring right now. I haven't got a chance to play it yet.
I haven't
It was
yet
on our,
either.
most anticipated list. How's that going for you?
That is intense, man. It is intense. I died 25 times trying to fight a giant,
Sure.
and I never got discouraged once. I never got pissed. It is super enjoyable, and it's bloody as... yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited
dig
to
it.
play it. I haven't played it yet.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all the notes that I had that I wanted to cover on the news type stuff. We really appreciate you sticking around and doing
Yeah,
the
man.
segment with us,
So
too.
good to see you and hear from you.
Yeah, you guys too, man. Thanks for having me, and anytime you guys want me back.
Absolutely. I think we already teased the fact we're going to have you back next week, or if we haven't, we're talking about it now. We're going to have you back next week to do the Cato tribute episode with us, so we're really looking forward to doing that, and going to be a good time sharing some memories and that sort of stuff as well. So we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Oh, yeah. Good talking to you, buddy.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
Yep, I love you guys. Have fun.
Love you
We
too, buddy.
you, dude. Take care.
See you.
We just wanted to real quickly, in closing the show today, again, remind everybody of our social media presence now. We're on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, Twitter at podcast_ATI, Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast 22. We're on Twitch, twitch.tv/ATI Podcast. We are on YouTube, ATI Podcast is the channel there. SoundCloud.com/All Things Insane Podcasts. We have a flow code set up on our social media sites, Facebook in particular. We have it on our Twitter account. We have it on our SoundCloud, which will jump you to all of these various sites as well.
And actually, yeah, if you go to Instagram, I'm pretty sure we have a QR code on there that you can scan too that will take you directly to our Flowco page. So
That's right. We do have a QR code on the Instagram page. It is in the highlights segment, and you can find that there. We also have an email set up for the show, atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. If you have a question for the show,
suggestions,
anything,
feedback.
perhaps a bit or perhaps an original song you'd like to submit to our show.
Or if you want to be on, even.
Absolutely. We're welcome to anything. Hit us up on the email. I am checking that daily, so we'll be happy to hear from you there. Want to go ahead and tease the next week episode. Next week, we are going to have the Cato tribute episode, and we are actually going to be bringing back Brandon for next week. He's agreed to do the show with us and have a discussion topic. Well, we're just going to memorialize our friend, And we've got some surprise appearances and submissions in store for that episode as well.
I'm really excited for next episode. I think it'll be good for everybody. So
I think even if you didn't know, Cato, that there's the discussion that we're having is going to be, you know, if anybody's went through grief in their life, this is three guys sitting here processing grief. So I think there's something to be learned, you know, in that regard. So I think that it'll be an interesting discussion in and of itself for that. But many of you, I'm sure most of you listeners, are aware of Cato that we have currently and the impact that he had on us and probably your life specifically. So we are looking forward to that episode. We want to take the time to thank our guest Brandon Stuart this week also for sitting in. And you can find Brandon on Instagram. His personal account is NOBNARD_ the unpleasant on Instagram. His diorama and custom work, that page in particular we want to highlight and point out to you all. It is EDWASEMPERIOUSIMPORIUM. So it's Ed was Emporium, excuse me, Emperious Imporium. So it's kind of a tongue twister, excuse me. So
Ed was Emperious Emporium, I guess.
Yeah, you got it better than I did. I butchered that, and I'm so sorry.
Well, actually, the only reason I got it was because I was listening to you process it.
Yeah. So we're gonna actually put these. It gets a little jargony at times, you know. Obviously, reading these off, and you know, you're probably listening, driving your car, and you don't have the time to type this stuff in. If you do want to explore it further. We will be putting the social media tags for Brandon and personally and his business.
Yeah, we'll link it
if you want to reach out to him. Please keep your inquiries if it's going to be custom diorama type stuff. He does check that stuff routinely, try and use it through his custom shop page. We talked about Enemy Airship's new single, Magnetic Light, last week. We're happy that this week we are going to be featuring that song with their permission. So please stick around at the end of the episode to check that out. We're really excited about bringing that to you all this week.
It's fantastic. I'm so glad that we were able to do that. Them guys are awesome, so I hope you guys enjoy that for sure.
And for now, I'm Barrett. I'm at Barry Insane on Instagram and Twitter. He's Josh at the OGW on Twitter and _ Joshua Welch on Instagram. We are out of time. And until next time, good night, good luck, stay safe out there.
Thank you guys. Stay safe.
Convocation broken hand. Leave all this grieving unmeasured. It's a curse. And I've been cursing loudly in a bar, in a dream. Oh, this dream. But I don't sleep anymore. I can't sleep anymore without you.
Hey there, this is Barrett from ATI Pod. Every week, Josh and I talk about what's going on in the world, what's entertaining, what's controversial. Nothing's out of bounds, whether it's sports, current events, politics, TV, movies, you name it, we talk about it. We're going to have local artists on our show, promoting their work. That's right, you heard me. For the people, by the people. Stay tuned, and you can find us anywhere that you get your lovely, lovely, juicy, juicy audio content. We are now on broadcasting platforms such as Spotify and Stitcher. Stay in touch with us via social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just search for ATI Pod. We'll see you around. And hey, stay safe out there.